We finally made it. The final season of Chapter 5. It's been a long ride, hasn't it, folks? We've had the good, the bad, and the ugly.
He was so ugly that everyone died!
Though, now with that all being said and done, we finally arrive at the conclusion. With Dr. Doom arriving at the island and tampering with Megalodon's plans, he absorbed Pandora's power, bringing villains like Emma Frost and Mysterio along with him to the island. Of course, we wouldn't be forced to fight against these monsters alone, as many heroes made their way to the island. As well, we were slammed headfirst into Season 4, Absolute Doom. And as usual, it's time that I, Landon Does Stuff, take you through this season's map changes, loophole, and new mechanics that were introduced. So, why don't we get started with... Okay, I gotta say first things first, I am not a Marvel fan. I like Spider-Man and that's it, we keep it at that. But Epic did a great job with the biome this season. With lively greens filling the forests and plains of Latveria, much like in Season 3, it feels like that old art design had slipped through the cracks and was able to escape the mundanity of Chapter 5's lifeless art design. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for the POIs of this season. With Marvel being the theme of the season, you'd think we'd get some super cool POIs, much like Chapter 2 Season 4 with Stark Industries. And those POIs would have some tie-in with the bosses that ran the POIs. Instead, we got a basic prison run by Emma Frost, Doom's city run by Mysterio, and Doom's personal castle run by a robot meant to imitate Doom because he was off doing some Pandora bullshit. But these three POIs all feel lackluster in terms of Marvel theming, and I'm not even a big Marvel guy. To throw an example out, what if Doomstot was instead a hall of mirrors, and Epic could have designed a couple of different versions of the POI that would randomly be chosen from each game? This would help to lean into Mysterio's powers of trickery and illusions. I don't know much about Emma Frost or Dr. Doom, so I'm not going to try to give them a POI or at least go in depth with it, but from what I can tell from Emma, she likes her riches, she likes her jewelry. So what if it was a mine with a bunch of veins of super sought after resources like your diamonds, your sapphires, your rubies, your emeralds, your quartz, like something like a reworked version of Shifty Shafts, which in its own regards is one of the best POIs in Fortnite history. Shifty Shafts my goat. As well, I feel like Castle Doom is very generic.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And I would love to see some more personality thrown into the POI as a whole. Again, I don't know much about Doom to comment on how to alter it or if he would alter it if it was a castle in his image. Though even then, most of these new POIs feel very uninspired for a Marvel-themed season. How did we just get an uninspired prison, castle, and city with the same theme as the season that brought us Stark Industries? It doesn't make sense to me personally. Of course, I'm not gonna lie, Chapter 2 Season 4 also had, I think it was called Doom's City or something. I don't remember what it was called, but it was literally just a Pleasant Park reskin with one of the houses removed. And it sucked. But it was still Pleasant Park, so it wasn't that bad realistically. As well, I forgot to mention we also got one last new POI, which was Doom's Courtyard. And it was just a worse version of Classy Courts. And, I mean, it's still good. It's worse now. So overall, Season 4 misses in terms of new POIs. Again, I think Epic should have made these POIs designed based on the boss's powers, based on what they like, their ideologies. You know, it wouldn't make any sense if Iron Man just ran some random fucking, some basic ass skyscraper and they just called it the Stark Skyscraper. No one would care. It's oh, it's a skyscraper. No, bring Stark Industries in. That makes more sense. It ties in with the lore of Marvel. Super cool. And I think the season is by far the worst we've seen from map changes this time. While Wrecked was much more of a mixed bag, it did add more to the map, and overall the changes were cool to see. While Season 4 does, fix the art design issues much like Season 3, it still doesn't work very well overall. But hey, this map may be a bit of a downgrade in my opinion, though the Chapter 5 map is already pretty good. The only thing that held it back was the lackluster art design, which has almost been completely eradicated. So the map may not be an improvement, though Chapter 5 already had a pretty good map, so it's okay if the map isn't as good in Absolute Doom. But when it was revealed we were going to get another Marvel season, I was really wondering how Epic was going to handle. Okay, so much like how I started with the map section, I just want to say I am not a Marvel fan, so if something doesn't jive with me, and you're like, oh, it's super cool because it's Marvel, because it's War Machine.
I don't give a shit! I don't
It's not because I don't like Marvel, it's just because I haven't watched most of the shit. I don't get the references, so it's not like I'm looking at this just from a balancing standpoint. Just from, is this fair? Is this fun to fight? Is this fun to fight with? So let's just say the loophole of the season was interesting to say the least. We unfortunately didn't see much balancing for previous weapons, which is kind of common at this point in Chapter 5, which sucks because the Gatekeeper was just the most powerful and brainless shotgun for 3 of the 4 seasons. Still, we saw the usual vaults on vaults, which, God bless, the Striker AR came back, the Burst SMG got vaulted, but we also did lose the card Monty. That's just sad. No! But we saw 3 new weapons on launch. The dual micro SMGs, the Monarch pistol, which worked like a hand cannon that did more damage when aiming down sights, and the Sovereign shotgun. It was a weird pump and auto shotty hybrid that would just deal crazy damage like 180, and then sometimes just hit 27.
I can't take this shit no more, man.
We also saw a reworked version of the Striker Burst with bullet drop, and, well, weapon mods, obviously. So, this was probably the strongest weapon in Chapter 5 as a whole in terms of, like, rifles. It was balanced as well, because obviously it wasn't good at spraying in box fights, but it was good for long range. Though, that's it for all of the new weapons. Oh, who am I fooling? It's a Marvel season. Of course we're gonna launch with some Marvel weapons and superpowers. Things like War Machine's arsenal, jetpack, auto turret, Captain America's shield, and Doctor Doom's gauntlets were all on launch of this season. Now that is a lot of stuff for the first day of a season. So props to Epic for filling the launch of Season 4 with tons of content. But I'll be completely honest, I'm not a fan of the strategy for content.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I know, I'm hating, but keep in mind that this is not an attack specifically on Chapter 5. This is more on every chapter after Chapter 1. If you played back in Chapter 1, you'll most likely remember when we got weekly updates compared to the bi-weekly updates we get now. Keep in mind that this is 100% my preference once again. I'm not saying that things were better back in Chapter 1 because I understand the stress this put on devs, but I think Season 4's launch should have had less. I think cutting War Machine, Cap Shield, and the common to legendary Monarch pistols and dual micro SMGs from launch would have helped to give each item much more time to breathe. You may be wondering where these should go instead, as we're only launching with the Striker Burst, Sovereign Shotgun, and the Mythics. Well, each of these items would be given a separate update. If this was the case, instead of how it was on launch, we could have seen the balancing of the season take a quicker and better turn, as Epic would have been able to take time and see how these new items needed balancing separately, and before they were launched, they could, troubleshoot them more. They could see if there was any issues, any bugs. Like, remember when you could just fly infinitely with Shuri's claws, Iron Man's boots, and War Machine's jetpack? Yeah, that probably wouldn't have happened if there was more time to balance it. And if you were to throw these 4 in with the addition of Shuri's claws, which are actually pretty balanced, the Iron Man mythics, which I fucking despise, we could have had weekly updates. We could have seen a much better balance as well for most of these weapons, and as I already mentioned, we could have seen a much steadier content flow, and more time to see how these items were in public matches before adding them to ranked. However, Epic didn't go with this approach, as you can tell. We're, past Season 4, it's probably Chapter 6 by the time this video is going up, if not, we're still in Chapter 2 Remix. But you have to ask, how did Epic balance it all? After the balancing war of 2024, Epic must have made sure things were balanced, or just flat out not in ranked modes, right? Yeah, nah, that's a big nope from Epic Games. Everything came in really strong, though some items did get nerfed, like the jetpack, which, really quickly, can we mention fuck this thing? I fucking hate it. I don't care if it was fun to use, I never want to see a jetpack in Fortnite like this again. Fuck this thing. Fighting it when you didn't have one was the most annoying shit in the world. I don't care if the air fights were fun. I never want to deal with it again. Seriously, please. I never want to see something like this in Fortnite again. I swear to fucking God, Epic, if you do this again, I'm gonna have an aneurysm. Please don't do this to me again. And the worst part is I couldn't escape it, because everything stayed in rank too. Though I do have to say, before any big tournaments, Epic did actually lock the fuck in and remove some of the crazy stuff from the tournament loot pool, which is a big dub. But they didn't remove them from ranked, which is just confusing. Don't get me wrong, it was the right call to remove the items from tournaments. I'm never gonna say that, oh, you should have kept the stupid fucking jetpack for tournaments and competitive matches. Big props to Epic for listening to feedback from pros, but Ranked is meant to be a competitive environment that mimics tournaments, correct? Yup. And you remove these items from tournaments, correct? Yup. So therefore, you should remove these items from ranked, as ranked is meant to mimic tournament environments, correct?
That makes sense to me,
Then do it.
but we don't want to.
Oh, you gimbal! Take what you wanted and I'll rip your arms!
It's just baffling. Especially after beginning to right the wrongs of Wrecked by removing these items from tournaments, they still kept them in ranked. Eventually, Epic did remove most Marvel items from ranked, and I won't lie, even though I'm not a big Marvel guy, the loophole was fun, but also infuriating. Fighting people who could just start with a fuck you beam that just did 90 damage, break builds, and then crash into you and knock you off of height. And then if they get low, they just fly away whenever they want. And thanks to Bullet Drop, you're never gonna hit them. These motherfuckers are dodging and strafing in the air. It's so fucking annoying. It's just never gonna work. And it's just so annoying to fight. I don't understand how, if anybody doesn't like Marvel, how they could like this season. Trust me, when I first used the Iron Man stuff, I thought it was cool, but I realized it was a problem. I wasn't blinded by, oh, it's a Marvel season, therefore it all is good. No, that's not what it means. I think a lot of people, especially Marvel fans who played this season of Fortnite, think that, oh, Marvel and Fortnite good, and that's it, because Chapter 2 Season 4 is so highly regarded. That is not the case. Balancing is a very important part of Fortnite. And while Wrecked was chaotic fun, you could find a car anywhere and you could start fighting. That's where I think the difference comes from. You needed a jetpack. And because of how Wrecked was balanced, where cars realistically were pretty easy to hit, all things considered. And as well, there was a bunch of counters like EMPs and boogie bombs added later. But items like jetpacks and the Iron Man mythics didn't get that balancing. They were broken the entire time they were in the fucking game. And the Stark rifle got murdered by bullet travel. That was an assassination attempt. The one thing I was excited for this season got fucking bastardized, I just want to say. And that hurts me the most. But I really, really have a lot to say. And actually, know what? Fuck it. Can we talk about this for a second? Every time I went on Twitter and saw Marvel items, specifically that fucking jetpack, get nerfed, there would be so many responses from casual players saying stuff about how pros are ruining this season again, and Epic is bending to the pros again, we're gonna have another Rex situation on our hands. Which just isn't the case. I feel like a lot of casuals don't understand that so many crazy and overtuned items in Fortnite 24/7 is not healthy for the game. There needs to be some semblance of balance in a game like Fortnite. And as much shit as you want to give it, Wrecked had better balance than Absolute Doom. You can say, oh, well, you could disable the jetpacks with EMPs, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I don't give a shit!
You have to admit, boogie bombs and EMPs, it was much easier to boogie bomb or EMP a car than EMP a fucking jetpack. And with bullet travel as well, oh my god, that shit was annoying. Cars were big, easy to hit. By the time that Wrecked ended, you could tell that Epic made a more balanced, but still kind of wacky season. And especially in competitive when building takes a back seat, there's some pretty obvious issues. And by the way, to all the pros that are listening to me right now and are saying, you're right, casuals ruin this game, da-da-da, they make it so brain dead, da-da-da. I need you guys to understand that I'm not on your side specifically either. It's not the casuals' fault. Having some fun and overtuned items is not the end of the world. Again, Wrecked showed that you can have balance with crazy. And it's not even the casuals' fault that these items are put in competitive modes. Both sides need to stop attacking each other. We need to come together as a community. Fight for a game that is both competitive for pros and fun for casuals. The only way we're gonna make this is by having our voices heard. I know most people will just take this retrospective as me saying, Chapter 5 sucks, Fortnite is awful now. But I believe Fortnite could become the perfect game for everybody. Just some people would say it already was and that we're never gonna get back to that. But all it'll take is a loss in profits for the higher-ups at Epic to increase the resources in all modes, so we can have exactly what we want. Just please, don't fight each other anymore. These videos weren't made to just blindly hate on Chapter 5. I love Fortnite. I've played it since Season 1, and I never once dropped the game. I've been here and played every single season. I've seen the highs from Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 5. I've seen the lows, I've seen the happy mediums that have been found. All we need to do is make our voices heard. Please, if you're listening to this, don't go back to blindly hating people in the community because they have a different opinion than you. If you see someone that says they like the mechs, please don't attack them. Whether you're a competitive or casual player, both sides want the same thing. Fortnite at its best. I think I have a very interesting viewpoint because I was casual, then shifted to competitive, then went back to casual, and now I'm going back to try and be competitive again. I'm not going to preach this perfect Fortnite because obviously a perfect Fortnite doesn't technically exist. Epic cannot. They cannot make everybody happy. Flat out. Right? There's going to be people who want the minigun. There's going to be people who don't want the minigun. And you could say that for any topic. Bullet travel, art design, this, that. But I think that's a great part of this community. We're all unique, and you could never please all of the player base. Though we need some simple changes like a split between casual and competitive loot pools to stop the endless bickering. But this would be a great direction, and if Epic doesn't want to keep these items out for good, well, guess what? Make, a post or a tweet saying about how, like, oh, these are only going to be in ranked for the first 2 weeks of the season's launch, or for the first 2 weeks of the update. And if they're not fit for a competitive environment, they would attempt balancing, and if so, clarify that, hey, casuals, these nerfs aren't permanent, and if these items are still issues in ranked, they will be removed, and nerfs will be reverted if the community wants. Though you may be wondering, how would Epic decide what the community wanted? Well, what if we post polls in the news tab in order to get player feedback? This could help satisfy the majority of players and would allow Epic, to see what all people who actually play Fortnite and don't just go and hate on Fortnite on Twitter, they get to see what they want and they get to give their opinions on changes they believe should be implemented. We can begin to create a healthier and happier Fortnite community. And I just want to say that I'm very sorry that I ranted for a while about the community as a whole. I just figured this needed to be said after getting through Wrecked and the toxicity it faced. I figured this was the best time to talk about my thoughts. But hey, now that we're on a more positive note, let's keep that going with. I'll be honest, there wasn't much in terms of new mechanics. This season, we got medallions changed again, and they were pretty weak. Though Emma Frost's Scam medallion was super cool, and a fun change of what medallions have been up to that point. Though, I'm gonna be honest, I'm using this just to segue to the best part of Chapter 5 as a whole. It was finally time for the last of the seasonal events in this chapter, and Epic wanted to end it with a bang. As October came around, it was finally time for the spooky month. Booga booga! And with that came Fortnitemares, which was, drumroll please, the best seasonal event that we've ever seen! This update brought tons of new and old things into Chapter 5. We got the Pumpkin Launcher, Witch Broom, and Woodstake Shotgun all return, which were all great additions to the loot pool, no matter what season they're brought into. But we also saw the introduction of Boom Billies, based on Billy from Saw. These things would just lock onto players and explode, dealing 75 damage. And honestly, these things were pretty balanced, allowing you to either build in front or just shoot the bombs, though if you were sloppy, you'd take damage accordingly. But we also saw the introduction of the Chainsaw, which was by far the best item from Fortnitemares, just in general, to be honest. I can't tell if Epic wanted to add a chainsaw and then just figured, oh hey, well, might as well collab with the Texas Chainsaw series.
Tell them to bring me my money. Yeah!
Or if this was just a collab item from the get-go. It hits that goofy Fortnite vibe we all know and love. And by the way, that's the best way to do a collab. When you can tell that it was just going to be added, like it could have just been added originally with no extra strings attached. That's the best way to do any sort of collaboration in my mind, where it doesn't take away from the season's theming, and it fits perfectly in with whatever update it comes in with. By the way, being able to grind on your chainsaw for extra mobility and skating around the map was so cool and so funny. While pros may have complained for a bit that, the chainsaw was super strong and you could grind through builds super easily.
Oh my god, bro.
It was fairly balanced, and it took a long time to swing, meaning if skilled enough, all it would take is 1 or 2 shotgun shots and the Maniac was down. Overall, the new items were incredible and helped to revive that vibe that we lost for some of Chapter 5. And not only that, but the art direction of Fortnitemares reinvigorated my hopes for the future of Fortnite, with this beautiful purple glow illuminating most of the map. As a bunch of the POIs either got tons of decorations scattered around, or completely changed like Brawler's Battleground, which then became Brawler's Patch, with the Ultima Carver taking it for his own, with Grind Vines from Chapter 4 also being reintroduced here, and just as fun as before. Turning Brawler's Battleground, which was once just some basic location that you'd never go to in a match, into a super unique and fun POI to land at, and of course I can't forget that we got a brand new POI. Replacing Reckless Railways, we were introduced to Freaky Fields, which was a twisted and dark version of Fatal Fields from Chapter 1. Like, what?
Whoa! Yankee with no brim!
This was awesome to see. Not for the nostalgia, but because the idea of Epic going back and reworking past POIs with modern graphics sounds amazing. Especially thanks to the dark and eerie vibe Freaky Fields just gave off. This place also allowed you to challenge Jigsaw in the Freaky Fields house, and if killing him, you get your hands on some Boom Billies and a Gatekeeper shotgun, if I'm not mistaken. But these aren't the only things Jigsaw brought with him, as there are stations around most POIs, and when accessed, you can duel with another player starting a timer. And if you don't kill him, and yeah, that's a boom boom bye bye, you're sent straight back to the lobby. So if you can kill him, you'll be rewarded with tons of loot, like witch brooms, pumpkin launchers, wood stick shotgun, heals, just a bunch of Fortnitemares style stuff. Though this is, without even mentioning most of the collabs, which were all incredible. This Fortnitemares is the best that we've had ever. And I want to say to all of the devs at Epic, you did an incredible job on this. And I'm not even done. We saw other modes get smaller updates, which is cool enough in its own right. I'm happy to see with the seasonal event, not only Battle Royale got the spotlight. Horde Rush returned once again with tons of Marvel items this time around, which was the best version of the mode we've seen in a very long time. And we finally saw the removal of the fucking War Machine jetpack. Call of Fortnite Advanced Warfare was finally over. God bless. Fuck that jetpack. Oh my god. Well, I guess the Iron Man items were still in the game, which were still annoying, though they felt much more tolerable since one half of the problem was removed. And overall, this Fortnitemares was incredible. It did everything I was hoping for and 3 times more. There was no way I would not have been able to play through the rest of Battle Royale without Fortnitemares. This update was the best update we've seen for the entire chapter. Honestly, if you told me this was for a new season, I probably would have believed you. That's how great this update was. Though Fortnitemares carried us into the end of Season 4, as we were greeted by our second live event of the season, which is the first time in I think a very long time we've seen 2 live events in one. It might be the first time ever actually. But the event at the time of writing didn't happen. And luckily, I'm recording this on November 13th. So as you can tell, it happened. And oh my god, this was the worst live event in Fortnite history. It was just a live stream at Ruined Reels. That is the most disappointing shit I've ever seen. It had no explanation for how we went to Chapter 5. And again, it was just a live stream on a screen. I don't know why Epic hyped it up so hard saying, oh, make sure you queue into a bunch of lobbies, or make sure you queue into lobbies earlier so you can make sure you get in and watch this super cool event. Because if I'm going to be honest, the false advertising on this shit, hurt me so hard. I was telling my friends, yo, make sure you log on early. Epic made tweets about it because you're not going to want to miss this. And then
Nothing left.
I was left disappointed. If you want to see my full reaction to the event, I have a stream VOD up, which by the way, it's been copyright struck, so just so you know, if you watch it, someone else is making money off of it, not me. Probably going to be like Snoop Dogg and Ice Spice and all them, which fuck that, by the way. I think that's a stupid thing. In general, the fact that we can be free publicity for the people like Nick A30 mentioned on Twitter, and then they can just take all the money, which again is really annoying. But whatever. The concert sucked, but hey, we also did get a mini live event where we all came together and fought Doom. It was cool, an interesting live event for sure. Though it should have been given its own mode where players were all on the same team because griefers were fucking annoying, and I feel like we should have been given tons of Marvel superpowers to deal with Doom instead. Would have made it feel much cooler and would have made it, super fun. Maybe even unvault some of the old ones from Chapter 2. Though overall, the event was pretty cool, and I appreciate the effort to make 2 for 1 season. I put in parentheses that concerts don't count, by the way, but well, that definitely changed. Even then, I still think it's cool that we got 2 events in 1 season. Sure, one of them barely felt like an event, but more like a fucking Twitch stream. But hey, that doesn't matter. It was finally time for us to return to Fortnite's second chapter, much like last year with Fortnite OG. And, of course, that brought back the Chapter 1 map, but this time, we entered Chapter 2 Remix. Season 4 had a lot of improvements from earlier seasons. I have to say, I may not vibe with things like the map changes and loot pool when compared to the previous Marvel season, but was this season still fun? Hell yeah! I forgot to mention that this season also brought the return of Siphon to competitive, which I know pros have been waiting for, and even myself, as I've been starting to get back into competitive, I am so happy to see Siphon return, and I hope that Epic keeps it for Chapter 2 Remix. But I feel like this needs to be said again, Fortnitemares was the saving grace of this season, and the best seasonal update we've seen just from Epic. It's the best thing we've ever seen from Epic in terms of a seasonal event. And please just make Winterfest like this too, I beg of you, oh my god, please! I think this season is the second best we've seen this chapter, as the competition is pretty weak. Of course, Rex sweeps for me personally, but I can see how you would prefer Absolute Doom. Just some of the items were not my thing. I don't like how they handled the loot pool and balancing for competitive specifically. Really hate that fucking jetpack, really should rot in hell. But I think it's finally time that we answer the final question we've been building up to by looking at these past few seasons. So folks, what was Chapter 5 of Fortnite? Chapter 5 felt like experimentation. Higher-ups at Epic wanted to push the metaverse before it was prepared for release, which we've seen that always never pans well. While doing so, Battle Royale was spun into an almost unrecognizable identity crisis at the start of Chapter 5. With changes to look and feel more realistic, it felt like Epic didn't understand and wanted to kill the core of what made Fortnite so popular in the first place. Though, as the seasons went on, things began to shift. Of course, the transition wasn't perfect, but you could tell even without stating it, Epic took criticism from players who missed the vibes that these old seasons brought. And with each season of Chapter 5, that vibe of Fortnite slowly creeped its way back in. I hope that Chapter 6 is a fresh start for Battle Royale. I think Epic understands that this mode and its charm was and is the reason why Fortnite has stayed in its position since release. I don't think the metaverse is an awful idea, like most people do. I think a lot of people hate it just for the fact that it shafted Battle Royale at the start of Chapter 5, and Winterfest took the brunt of it. However, if you begin to take resources away from modes like Battle Royale, just to rush out unfinished game modes and to remove most live events, like what they did with LEGO Fortnite, Fortnite Festival, and Rocket Racing, players will not be happy, and I feel it's justified. And I think most of Battle Royale's problems, especially at the start of Chapter 5, can be pointed to the higher-ups at Epic, and their direction for Fortnite, turning it into an experience, not a game. However, I don't think Epic will make the same mistakes again. They've learned people prefer Fortnite as a bright and colorful Battle Royale, with fun items, not this realistic and lifeless Battle Royale. I feel that if Epic has not taken this direction in Chapter 5, specifically with the realistic art direction and bullet travel, this could have been the best chapter in Fortnite's history. I think I've rambled for long enough, however. This video is most likely releasing right before or right after Chapter 6's launch, so I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on Chapter 6 and the final event of Chapter 2 Remix. I think that we've really got a chance to see Fortnite return to another prime. With the return of OG permanently, I really hope Epic locks the fuck in and gives the community what they want. A cartoony, wacky, chaotic, but balanced Battle Royale. I'd like to thank you all for watching this retrospective, and if you'd like me to cover other Fortnite seasons, please leave it in the comments below, or if you have any other ideas for what I should cover, maybe seasonal events, maybe metas, maybe past, competitive scenes, I would love to take a look at it. But anyways, once again, thank you all for watching, and if you want to know what I want to see in Chapter 6, I'll be live streaming Chapter 6 Day 1 most likely, and I hope to see you all there. Anyways, I hope you all have a great night, everybody, and thank you for watching this entire retrospective through and through. Once again, if you want to support me, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, you know that whole thing. and use code LandonDoesStuff, all caps, in the Fortnite item shop. If you want to support me. Again, hashtag ad, hashtag epic partner. Seriously, it means a lot. But anyways, adios everybody. Have a great night, and always be yourself.